Yeah, that was a tough one. Tennessee so close to reaching its first Final Four ever. And this magical run with these group of guys, it's now over. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna vent a little bit, and we're gonna look back at Tennessee's loss in the Elite Eight here on a Monday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's actually Sunday night, Sunday late evening. I went ahead and released this because, well, it's kind of fresh and topical on the mind. This will hold over from Monday's episode. But hey, this is Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Cain. Appreciate you for being here. We got a lot to discuss here today. Of course, Tennessee's 72-66 loss to Purdue in the Elite Eight. We'll recap that game. We'll talk about this season as a whole. And we'll look at Tennessee's baseball weekend, another series victory over Georgia. And Tennessee did it the hard way. I'll get into that later on in segment number 3. You can watch, listen, download, follow all of us for free, Locked On Vols, wherever you get your podcast. And, of course, Locked On Vols on the YouTube channel. So, again, voice a little weak, so apologies there, but we're going to make through it. Almost kind of out of this little sickness here. It was tough. It was tough. Let's not sugarcoat it. Let's just be real. Let's be open about some things. It was tough watching that game, and it's not like Tennessee played poorly because, sure, in certain spots, Tennessee might have played a little poorly. Tennessee would like to have done a number of things better in order to win. Tennessee did fall by 6 points, 72-66 the final score. But for me, my biggest takeaway in this game, and I'm never the guy that says I'm going to go cry official. Zach Edey's a good player. Zach Edey was the National Player of the Year last year. He's going to be the National Player of the Year this year. He's a good player, going to be a good NBA player. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but my biggest takeaway, and I didn't watch every single Purdue basketball game this year, but I watched 2 against Tennessee, and I watched a couple others. Officials don't know how to work a game with Zach Edey in there. He is so big. He is 7'4", 300 pounds. And the officials do not know how to call a basketball game with him in there. Again, not trying to take away anything from him. Not trying to go cry ref. Is what it is. Tennessee could have done a number of different things and won this football game. But when you have Zach Edey, who drew himself 13 personal fouls. 13 fouls. And oh yeah, he didn't get whistled for his first foul himself until the 9-minute mark of the second half. That's an issue. How in the world can every starter and most bench players who played in this basketball game on both sides get called for a foul, yet the 7'4", 300-pound National Player of the Year doesn't get his first foul called until 9 minutes left in the game? It's inexcusable. It got to a point to where Tennessee could not breathe on Zach Edey without getting a foul call, and it's just frustrating. Toby Walker's coming in there, and he's got 2 forearms in the back, and sure, that's probably a foul, but you got Rick Barnes over there barking at official. Clearly, Toby is being instructed to play defense that way. You got guys coming over on help defense and getting a whole lot of ball. It's a foul. You got Edey that's pushed over, sideways a little bit. It's going to be a foul. Meanwhile, in the first half, it looked like you had Zach Edey that threw Toby Walker on the ground, had Josiah Jordan-James in a headlock, no foul. It's just, that's what's frustrating about it. And again, I'm not trying to say the officials are the reason Tennessee lost. Tennessee didn't get anything out of Jonas Adu. Okay? Jonas Adu had a really bad weekend. He's been really great for Tennessee all weekend or all season long. He had a bad weekend, both in the Sweet 16 matchup with Creighton and the Elite Eight draw against Purdue. You didn't get anything out of Jonas Adu. Rough night offensively for Zakai Ziegler, for sure. Josiah Jordan-James, strong first half offensively, not as much in the second half. So sure, there are other areas where Tennessee could have done a whole lot of things, and I'm not trying to act like that's not true because it is. But the biggest takeaway and the biggest frustration is the officiating doesn't know how to do a game with Zach Edey in it. And again, I'm not trying to act like I'm an all-knowing person on Purdue basketball because I've watched 2 games against Tennessee that they played, and maybe a couple other ones when they're on primetime television. I'm sure it's like this every single game, but man, it's frustrating. Having said that, that was my number one biggest takeaway, the frustration coming from this game because Zach Edey could do no wrong. And if Tennessee was within 5 feet of him, whistling a foul. I made the joke on Twitter that the interviewer on CBS was also called for a foul when interviewing Zach Edey. Just was what it was, how it was in this basketball game. Now that I get that out of the way, it's tough, man. You like these guys. It's kind of like that Grant and Admiral year with Bone and Bowden and Alexander and some of those guys. You like this group of guys. You do. You've been around Josiah Jordan-James. You've been around Santiago Vescovi for 5 years. You've been around Zakai Ziegler now for 3 years. Of course, he's coming back. But you've been around him a long time. You've gotten to know, you feel like. That's why basketball is kind of intimate compared to football, because you get more face time with these players and interviews and all that. I mean, football, you get lost in the shuffle. There's 100 guys on the team, 110 guys on the team, but 85 on scholarship. But with basketball, it's a smaller number, so you feel like you get to know them a little bit. You feel like you kind of get to go behind the curtain a little bit. Dalton Knecht, boy, it was 1 year, but man, what a ride it was. And you hate to see those fifth-year seniors go. And you hate to see this group of Tennessee Volunteers basketball players that, in my opinion, had the closest and best chance to go to the Final Four fall just a game short. Having said all that, no reason at all to hang your head. This was a great season. Working through the seeds, this is where Tennessee should have bowed out as a 2 seed, right? I know that's not how tournament basketball works a lot of times, but if you go by the seeding, this is where Tennessee should have bowed out on paper if you went chalk to Purdue in the regional final. Doesn't make it any easier, right? Tennessee went to the Elite Eight for the second time ever in program history. And Tennessee was within seconds at times of punching its first ticket ever to the Final Four. It was tough. It's tough. And again, I take a back seat. I try to be as unbiased as I can because I pride myself in my work. And a lot of you guys comment and reach out to me and say I see you out and about, and you guys say that you love how I'm a straight shooter, and that's what I am. But I mean, at the end of the day, man, I grew up in East Tennessee. I went to these games with my dad growing up, man. Like I know Tennessee's what I know, and I've never seen Tennessee go this far and play this well in the tournament, and so it's kind of upsetting. It really is. But it's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, right? It's the way the ball bounces. And Purdue is going to, I believe, its first Final Four since 1980, maybe. I don't know. I heard some stat, but it was two juggernauts going at it. It was Zach Edey versus Dalton Knecht, and neither one of those guys had a whole lot of help. You had Lawyer, who had 14 points, and he did some things for Purdue. And points in time, Zakai Ziegler had a big shot. Josiah Jordan-James had a big excuse me, guys, had a big first half. Again, working through a cold here. Jordan Gainey had a couple big threes. But my point is, it was a whole lot of Edey and a whole lot of Dalton Knecht. 40 points, a career high for Zach Edey. 37 points, not a career high for Dalton Knecht. We've seen him score more. But it was one of those games, man. And we talked about it last week on a potential matchup with Purdue yet again. You knew how this game was going to go. Zach Edey was going to score 30 points, and he was going to get 20-some-odd opportunities at the charity stripe. Well, let's check the stats here. Zach Edey scored 40 points, 13 of 21 from the field, 14 of 22 from the charity stripe. The dude had 22 opportunities at the free throw line. Made 14 of them. Not a very good free throw shooter, but my goodness, the foul disparity, the free throw attempts. Purdue had 33 free throw attempts. Tennessee had 11 in the basketball game. And again, goes back to what I was saying at the very beginning of the show. Tennessee couldn't breathe on Zach Edey without getting fouled up. It was just so incredibly frustrating. And I know other teams have this beef against Purdue throughout the year. I get it. And, we'll see if other teams have this beef against Zach Edey, in the Final Four. But it's frustrating. It is really, really frustrating. And I'm not even trying to be harsh on the officials. I'm just saying I don't think they know how to call a basketball game with Zach Edey in it. I don't think they know how. I don't. Because there's not a lot of guys like him. Again, 7'4", 300 pounds. And I'll say this, the best basketball play he made on the night was that block of Dalton Knecht. Because again, I'm not trying to sound insecure. I'm not trying to, sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. Or I'm not trying to sound, I guess what I'm trying to say, like a sore loser. He never comes out of the paint. He gets the ball, goes up, gets fouled, goes to the charity stripe, knocks 1 or 2 down. He goes and dunks, or he goes, puts up on the block, gets an offensive rebound. He's tall. He's really good at basketball, and he's tall. But the best play he made all night was blocking Dalton Knecht there to kind of put the nail in the coffin late in the second half. So anyway, those are just some initial thoughts. We'll kind of roll through here. We'll look at the stats and everything. I took some notes during the basketball game, and we'll kind of talk about all that when we come back here as we continue on with a Monday, Sunday night edition of Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. What to tell you about our friends over at GameTime. GameTime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. So again, I talk about this all the time. If you're a procrastinator, this is the app for you. But it's not just for sporting events or for Major League Baseball games. It can be for comedy shows, concerts, monster truck rallies, whatever entertainment event is going on in your area. Chances are GameTime is going to be selling tickets with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, especially to Major League Baseball games. You can get views from your seat before you even purchase your ticket. They've got lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, even job loss protection as well. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, all that more in your area as well. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, put in the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guarantee. More Tennessee basketball coming up next in segment number 2. All right, we're going to talk more about Tennessee's loss to Purdue in the Elite Eight here in segment number 2 of a Monday edition of Locked On Vols. Don't forget, we got Twitter Tuesday coming up tomorrow, X Tuesday. So any questions you guys have, comments, concerns, go ahead and feed those to me on the DMs or on the YouTube channel, or you can tweet me. But any questions, Tennessee football, recruiting, basketball now that the tournament's over, all that and more, baseball as well, holler at me at _Cainer and at Locked On Vols. So again, Tennessee falls, final score 72-66, and Tennessee played pretty well in this game. A couple of areas I'll highlight that I think were kind of the difference. But overall, Tennessee shot 39% from the field. It shot much worse. Purdue shot 45%. Tennessee was 42% from 3, shot really well from 3-point range, made 11 3-pointers in this game, and that was huge in keeping Tennessee not only in the game, but had a lead at points in times. Purdue only made 3 of 15 shots from beyond the arc. Tennessee was 7-11 from the charity stripe, but it was Purdue who had nearly triple the amount of free throw attempts that Tennessee did, making 21 of their 33. Points off turnovers. Turnovers in general, Tennessee only had 7, Purdue had 10. Points off turnovers, Tennessee cashed in 20-7 in that regard. Tennessee got beat up on the boards, and you got a guy that's 7'4", and he wasn't the only tall guy there. I mean, Purdue's, made a living having some pillars down low, and that's kind of where they were the other night. Tennessee was hurt in the rebounding battle, and it afforded second chance opportunities for Purdue. Tennessee was out rebounded 47-26 overall in this basketball game, and Purdue was able to haul in 13 offensive rebounds compared to only 6 for Tennessee. As expected, with Zach Edey scoring 40 points, Tennessee was outscored 40-24 in the paint. 7'4", 300 pounds, National Player of the Year. You're going to take a loss in that regard anyway, but that, 16 points is a little bit too much in my regard. Tennessee was better out in transition, forcing some turnovers and kind of stealing some points out in transition to kind of halt some runs and points and times. 13-9, Tennessee outscored Purdue in that regard. Tennessee had 8-5, won that's the steals battle. Tennessee had more assists than Purdue, albeit only by 1, 17-16. This game was, again, it was back and forth. It was tied 6 times, spent about 5 minutes of game action with it tied. The lead changed 8 times. Tennessee spent almost 12 minutes with the lead in this game, whereas, of course, Purdue had the lead for, nearly 24 minutes. The way the first half ended was unfortunate for Tennessee because Purdue closed the first half on a 15-2 run that spanned over just a little more than 5 minutes and took a 2-point halftime lead at 36-34 into the break. Prior to that, Tennessee was on a 10-0 run. Tennessee had let's see here. Tennessee was on a 7-0 run. Tennessee was on a 10-2 run, and then Purdue started its run 7-0, 10-0, 12-0, and ultimately had a 15-2 run into the halftime break. And, lost a lot of steam because Tennessee had an 11-point lead at one point in time in the first half. In fact, 11-point lead with 5 minutes and 11 seconds left in the first half. But that run, that 15-2 run to close the first half, really erased that and then put some momentum for Purdue in the second half. Tennessee opened the second half, and Gainey hit a big time 3. Purdue jumped up, by 6 points in one time. Gainey hit a big time 3, cut it within 3 at 44-47. Zakai Ziegler had a steal and a layup, making it a 1-point game at 47-46. Then Purdue went on another run, 7-0 run, opening the score to 54-46 with about 10 minutes left. Gainey hit a big 3-pointer, 54-51. Knecht had a layup off a steal, making it 53-54. Knecht had a 3-pointer later, tying the game at 56-all. And then that's when Purdue kind of opened it up there towards the end. Another 7-0 run kind of put some cushion between the Boilermakers and the Volunteers. So Knecht, it's unfortunate this was the last game of Tennessee's season because I feel like this was the best prepared team, equipped team from a defensive perspective, from a fifth-year senior perspective, and from just having a guy that can go and get you a bucket. And obviously that's Dalton Knecht. It's unfortunate that this is the last game for this group of guys. But, man, at least we got a Dalton Knecht, awesome game. 37 points for Dalton, 14-31. I mean, that's around 50%, just under 50%. He was 6-12 for downtown. He had 3 rebounds, had 1 assist, only fouled 1 time in this game. I mean, he was incredible. But I felt like they were too reliant on Dalton in that second half. Tennessee they were double teaming Dalton, and Tennessee was doing anything they could to possibly, get the ball to Dalton. And he was wearing himself out just trying to get open. And by the time he got open, there was only a couple of seconds left on the shot clock, and then he had to get to work and sometimes, put up a forced shot or a bad shot, in my opinion. But nonetheless, can't really complain much about Dalton Knecht. As I mentioned earlier, Josiah, I thought had a really good first half offensively, kind of went quiet in the second half. Jonas Adu just gave you nothing, man. And that's so unfortunate because I think Jonas had such a great season, and I've called Jonas the X Factor so many different times. He gave you a big old goose egg this weekend, both in the Sweet 16 and in the Elite 8. Toby Awaka, liked a lot of what Toby Awaka gave you, but, dude entered the game with 2 fouls. And then he breathed on Edey, and he got his 3rd foul, before the first half was over. This kind of is what it is, the type of player that he is. JP Estrella got a couple, minutes, or got more than a couple, got 15 minutes to run, and this was the type of game that you needed to get him in there. And he did a couple of nice things, but also he was late on help defense a couple of times and, put Tennessee in jeopardy a little bit. I thought Gainey played well, and Gainey, had a couple of threes there that when Tennessee really needed them. And Santiago Vespi came back, and of course he missed the Creighton win with, he was out with illness, and you just hated that for him. And he described it to reporters as kind of being a nightmare night for him. You hated that he missed that, but he came back, played 13 minutes, but really was a non-factor in this game. Didn't score a point. Had 2 assists. That was good to see. 2 rebounds, but really didn't do an awful lot in this game. So just was what it was. And at the end of the day, it all goes down to they had a 7'4" guy that weighs 300 pounds that drew 13 fouls on him and didn't get called for a foul until 9 minutes left in the game. And Tennessee didn't have one of those guys. That's literally as simple as I can make it in describing this basketball game. Just how it was this game. But man, what a fun group. What a fun season. Rick Barnes is 100% the best coach in program history. It is no debate. I know there's a lot of Bruce Pearl lovers out there, and I get it. And I saw what he and Candace said, going back and forth on the broadcast after the win over Creighton, and that was cool. That was cool. I mean, I don't hate Bruce Pearl. I don't, but there's a lot of people that are just super, super loyal to him, and almost to a fault. Like there's some that are super loyal to him, and that's great. But some people are so loyal to him that they don't appreciate Rick Barnes. And I don't get that at all. I mean, Rick Barnes, hands down, this run cements him as the best coach in program history. And it should cement his Hall of Fame resume, in my opinion. Sure, he's only got one Final Four, and I thought this year was going to be the year where he could add another Final Four to that resume, but gets back to the Elite Eight. And he is such a great coach. And this was his best chance to do anything at Tennessee, in my opinion. It's unfortunate. We'll see how many more years he wants to coach. I hope he coaches 10 more years. I love Rick Barnes. But this run certainly cemented him as being the best coach in program history, and it's not close. It's not close, in my opinion. So anyway, Tennessee Falls, it's unfortunate. It was hard to watch at times, but Tennessee played well, and Tennessee did about as good as it could possibly do given the circumstances, in my opinion, of this basketball game. But it wasn't enough. Tennessee falls by 6 points, final score of 72-66, and that ends the Tennessee season in only its second Elite Eight appearance ever in program history. When we come back, we'll shift gears. We'll talk Tennessee baseball, a little Monday morning baseball roundup. That's coming up next as we continue on with Locked On Vols. All right, Amazon Fire TV. It's your destination for sports, for live games, the highlights, in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with these smart TVs, as well as Fire TV Stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides you access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. And Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and the most of the big pro and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game and analytics, analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date with all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and a whole lot more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on the Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. We'll talk a little Tennessee baseball when we come back right here on Locked On Vols. One more segment left here of this Monday edition of Locked On Vols. Again, you may be watching or listening to this on the Sunday night. Went ahead and released this because obviously fresh on the minds of everybody. Tennessee came up short in the Elite Eight. This coming in from my buddy Oz, and he reminds me, and it's funny, I was just looking at the 2010 Elite Eight appearance against Michigan. It says Tennessee's Elite Eight, both of Tennessee's Elite Eight losses have been in the Midwest region by a combined 7 points. Again, lost by 1 point back in 2010, and then losing by 6 here in this one, 72-66. Hey, X Tuesday coming up tomorrow. Mailbag questions, comments, concerns on whatever you guys have. Tennessee basketball. Give me your thoughts. How you feeling right now? I kind of did that in segment number 1 and a little bit in segment number 2. Kind of told you what was going through my mind watching this game and kind of, shortly thereafter. Also, Tennessee football spring practice, recruiting, baseball's happening right now, all that and more. Send in those questions at _Cain or at Locked On Vols, and of course on the Locked On Vols YouTube channel. Okay, so sounds like I've been smoking a lot of Marlboro cigarettes. Hopefully this will be gone here in the next couple of days. Got to continue to try to wet my whistle a little bit with some beverages. Non-alcoholic now, non-alcoholic. I'm on the clock here. Let's talk a little Tennessee baseball. Boy, did Tennessee baseball earn it this weekend. What I mean by that, everybody was so fixated on basketball, and rightfully so, okay? But I feel like a lot of people weren't paying attention to baseball because there were bigger fish to fry, and I get it. But on Friday night, man, Tennessee got ran out of the gym. No pun intended. I mean, Tennessee, boy, just got embarrassed on its own turf. Literally, 16-2 run ruled at home to begin an SEC series. That was not good. I remember leaving Lindsey Nelson Stadium Friday night. I'm like, boy, this could be a long weekend. I mean, really. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, your guy that has been so good for you, and he'll continue to be good for you. Baseball is a funny game, and I'll tell you why it's funny, because of the way Tennessee bounced back this weekend. But A.J. Causey's been so good for you. Not just good, been so great for you this year. He got torched. 2 2/3 is all that A.J. Causey went on Friday night. Gave up 8 runs, 7 earned, off 7 hits, 3 strikeouts, 2 walks. He faced only 18 batters. Couldn't get out of the 3rd inning. A.J. Causey, who's been your team MVP so far, got drilled. And then you handed the ball over to one of your better bullpen arms in Stamos. And excuse me, I was sitting there. I think at the time you were losing like 8-0. Let's see here. Yeah, 8-0. And so I'm sitting here at the time whenever Causey leaves and they bring in Stamos, and I'm like, man, this game's over. Why are you burning one of your better bullpen arms on Friday night when you have 2 more games left to go? And I know Stamos is a guy that could probably use multiple times depending on how much he throws, but I was sitting there like, man, I mean, like, what are you doing? But then again, I'm like, man, Tennessee's offense can score 8 runs in the snap of a finger, it feels like. And, you know, it did on Saturday, but I'll get to that here in a moment. Wasn't on Friday night, though. Stamos comes in, stops the bleeding a little bit. They turn to the 2 freshmen who I've been, beating on the table, saying we need to see these 2 freshmen, Derek Schaefer and Matthew Dallas more, and it wasn't good for either one of them. Schaefer gave up 5 runs off 5 hits and 1 inning of work. Dallas gave up 2 runs off 2 hits and an inning and 2/3. So, again, it was not great for either one of those. I mean, it was just a bad night all around for Tennessee. And it's not like the hitting was bad. Tennessee had 10 hits, just couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. And 2 swings of the bat put Georgia up 6-0 really early on. So, just one of those nights. But, I mean, it was bad for Tennessee there on a Friday night. But it's why you play a series and why you can't divine a baseball team after 1 game. Tennessee comes back on Saturday. It goes up 3-0. It falls behind 7-3 in the top of the 3rd as Georgia explodes for 7 runs in the 3rd inning. And then Tennessee claws its way back, scores 1 in the 3rd. Actually, that was Blake Burke, his solo home run Saturday night in the 3rd inning. Tied Luke Lipsius for the all-time record for Tennessee 40 career home runs. His next home run, he'll be the sole home run leader. Tennessee scored 6 in the 5th, scored 6 more in the 7th, and Tennessee won a slugfest Saturday night, 16-11. Dalton Bargo, who's nursing a sore hamstring, didn't start that game. Tony Vitello decided that, like, hey, we need a spark, we need some offense. He pinch hits Dalton Bargo for Ariel Antigua for Dalton Bargo, taking the defensive wizard out there at shortstop. Putting in Dalton Bargo, he singles, starts the rally for the 6-run 5th inning, and then later on he hit a grand slam. Dylan Dreiling was responsible for 7 runs batted in, a 3-run home run in the 1st, and a grand slam in the 7th inning. A lot of offense in this one. A lot of offense. Blake Burke, by the way, leaves the weekend on an 18-game hitting streak and a 27-game on-base streak. So Blake Burke's doing an awful lot of things. So, like, again, Tennessee earned that one on Saturday, and Drew Beam, much like A.J. Causey, tagged for 7 runs, only 4 earned. 1 was an error. 3 of those runs came in via an error. Should have been out of the inning. But 7 runs, 8 hits, 2 innings and 2/3. And then Kirby Cannell might have had the effort of the weekend. Goes 5 innings of relief, 94 pitches total, both of those career highs, and then Snead closes that out. Shows you how much they didn't trust anybody in that game. Tennessee was up 6 runs, 16-10, and they turned to Nate Snead to close things out in the final inning in the 3rd. Tennessee earned that one on Saturday night. And then Sunday, Tennessee just made quick work of Georgia. Wasn't the best day offensively. Tennessee scored 2 runs off an RBI double from Hunter Ensley, sac fly from Reese Chapman. A Balk scored a run, a sac fly scored a run. It just kind of Tennessee just found a way on Sunday. But the pitching was great again. Xander Seacrest, who was going to open the game, they let him go. He goes a career-high 6 innings, 102 pitches, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, no runs, 4 hits. What a day for Xander and Kirby. Kirby on Saturday, Xander on Sunday. So happy to see that. And then Nate Snead comes back and picks up the 3-inning save on Sunday. What a response by Tennessee. And again, there's question marks, but maybe you found your answer on Sundays now. You're not going to get that from Xander Seacrest every Sunday, but you have enough confidence to continue to roll Xander out there for the time being, in my opinion. So maybe that's a question that's answered. Still, still need to answer a lot of different questions in the bullpen, but this lineup is dangerous. It's going to continue to be dangerous. You have so many different options. We're without Billy Amick this weekend, and Tennessee finds a way to bounce back and beat a really good Georgia team that swept Alabama last weekend, and it's got a little grit to him. Plus, Charlie Condon, best player in baseball right now. Tennessee, for the most part, held him in check this weekend. I know he homered one time, but good weekend for Tennessee baseball. Really good weekend. Resiliency, bounce back, hitting. Tennessee baseball did a great job. No game in the midweek this week. They'll be back in action next weekend at Auburn, and you can follow my work over at VolQuest.com. We'll talk about it on next Monday morning as well, how Tennessee did against Auburn. All right, for the sake of you and me and everybody else, I'm going to rest this voice. Appreciate you guys for being here. Kind of just talking through it. Love to hear your thoughts. Tennessee loses in the Elite Eight. It's frustrating. It's heartbreaking. You hate it for those guys. You hate to see this run over. You're frustrated with how the game is officiated. All can be true. Let me know your thoughts at _Cainer and at Locked On Vols. We'll be back tomorrow for the mailbag edition of the show. I'll tell you what's the latest in Tennessee spring practice. All that and more coming up on a Tuesday morning. Appreciate you guys as always. This is Locked On Vols.